In exercise 22, CAT, you printed out each line of the file on a separate line in the output. Essentially, you reproduced the file on the output in the shell. But what if we wanted to have access to each individual word in the line? We can use split to break up a string. So here's some code. You can see that in the first line of the code, we're assigning the text, the rain in Spain, the string, the rain in Spain, to a variable called line. In the next line, we're taking that variable called line and we're using the split operation on it, and we're assigning the result to a variable called words. When we print words in order to display what's in there, we see a list, and each element in the list is a separate word from the original string. So essentially what we've done is we split up this original string, the rain in Spain, into 1, 2, 3, 4 separate things in a list. Each one is a string representing or being a word from the original line. So we can actually do some pretty sophisticated stuff here. Here we see a longer string. The rain in Spain falls mainly in the plain. It's assigned still to a variable called line, and we still do a split on line and assign the result of that split to words. That's going to create a list. What are we doing now in this for loop? Well, we're looping through the words list. We take its length, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 separate words. We do a range on it, so we get indexes. We get indexes from 0 through 8. And then inside the loop, we say if the index number can be modded by 2, in other words, 2 goes evenly into this index number with the result being 0, then we will take the word at that particular index, convert it to uppercase, and then assign the result back into the list at that index number. The result when we print words is that every other word is capitalized. You can try this in the shell yourself. You should pause the video and do it just to check and make sure and think your way through how it works. So when we split up a string into smaller parts, it's called parsing. You should think about grammar in this context. When you take a sentence in English and you parse it, what you mean to do, or what you're doing, is you're breaking down that sentence into its individual parts: subject, verb, object, dependent clause, independent clause, things like that. So the first exercise that we're going to do here is you're going to take your exercise 22, which was the exercise from the last lesson that we did, that prints out each word of the Samurai Song file. Sorry, not each word, each line of the Samurai Song file as a separate line in the output. And now we're going to break it into individual words, each line into individual words, and then print each of those words on a separate line. You don't have to split up your string based on spaces between the words. You can provide arguments to split that modify its behavior. In this code, we're providing an argument to split, which is the string A. What will happen here is that every time the split function encounters an A in the string, which is contained in line, it's going to break apart the line that way and assign the result to the variable specified right here, which I've called chunk. Inside the loop, we're printing out the chunks. Okay, so down here in the output, we see the R, because there's an A after the R here for the rain in Spain. This is the IN that was in rain, then in SP, after the SP in the rain in Spain is an A, so we get another split right there. This is the IN that was in Spain. Here is the F, which is usually followed by an A for falls, and so we get another split right there, and it keeps on going. In the example, split uses the letter A to split up the string. We get a new chunk every time the split function encounters, oh, excuse the spelling mistake right there, every time the split function encounters an A. So we can actually use regular expressions inside the argument to split right there, and you can get really sophisticated in splitting up strings. If you need to do some really complex string splitting, say possibly in the context of a summative or something like that, make sure that you see me and I can give you some pointers to regular expressions, and there's a couple of links at the end of this presentation as well. So we could actually do a whole unit on the tool used to analyze and split up strings, those regular expressions. They're common throughout all different kinds of programming languages and in different kind of programming shells and stuff like that. Getting good at regular expressions, which are complicated, is a really nice skill set to have. But we're not going to do it because we do a whole course. Okay, so you'll see posted here another file called samurai song underscore colonized. Okay, and what I've done in that file is I've replaced all the spaces with colons. So what I want you to do is essentially the same thing you did in the last exercise, but using the samurai song underscore colonized text file. So it's really no different other than you're going to do a different split, and I just want you to get some practice with that. Let's talk about writing data to a file. We haven't done that yet. So we're going to use the write function for that. So this is the output side when I said that there were 4 things that you want to be able to do with a file. You want to be able to open it. You want to be able to read from it. You want to be able to write to it, which is what we're going to talk about right now. And you want to be able to close the file afterwards. So before we can send data to a file, you should recall that we have to open it in either W mode for writing to it or A mode if we want to append to it. And append means put the things, the data that we're writing at the end of the file. Remember, if we open an existing file in W mode, in write mode, then the contents will be erased. If the file does not yet exist, it will be created by opening the file in W mode. We can use the write function to write the contents of a string to a file. So here, string is either a literal string variable or it's a variable that contains a string. We pass that to the write function and we use that to write the contents to the file. The write function is something we get access to when we create a file handle. And don't forget, a file handle is the result of doing an open on a file. So we open the file in write mode, we assign the result of that open to something like a file handle, and then we're able to write data to it. So some file handle is the file handle returned when you open the file. And string is whatever text data you want to appear in the file, whether it's a literal string or a variable. If you want a new line to appear in your file, you must include a \n in your string. If you don't do that, everything that you write to the file will be on one continuous line. Just like opening a file and reading from it, writing to it can cause an exception to occur. We need to wrap our code in a try except as a result of this. Also, don't forget to close your file at the end of the program when you're done writing to it. If you don't, it will be empty when you go to open it to check it. I've also posted a file called pythonobjects.txt. What I want you to do with this file is I want you to open it, and I want you to read from the file, and I want you to open a new file with a new file name to write to, and I want you to convert every instance of lowercase the in the source file, in the original pythonobjects.txt file, to an uppercase the that you'll write to the output file. So you're going to write the modified output to a new file. Okay, once you're done writing to the new file, close it, then open it again in read mode and print it out to the screen. I strongly advise you to sketch out the major steps of your solution before beginning to program. It's quite complicated what you're trying to do here, and you'll need to think your way through it. I have in the past in actual classrooms said I'm not going to provide any help unless you can show me some evidence that you've written out the major steps, but I'm not doing that this time. If you process pythonobjects.txt line by line in a for loop, then it's going to help you in the next assignment that we do and as well in the next exercise that you have to do for this lesson. So use a file reading for loop, like for line and input file, and loop through the file line by line, and then do what you need to do. Okay, the last exercise here. You'll see a file called pythonobjects_reverse.txt, and what it is it's the pythonobjects.txt file with all the words on each line in reverse order. So I've read each line from the pythonobjects.txt file, I've reversed the order of the words, and I've written them to pythonobjects_reverse.txt. So the lines are still in the same order in the file, it's just the words within each line that are reversed. Your job is to modify the previous exercise so that it creates a new file with the words put back into the proper order. As I mentioned, here's a couple of links to tutorials on regular expressions if you'd like to know more about them. If you do need to do some sophisticated parsing of input strings and stuff like that, I can give you some more information on that. And that's it. Good luck. As usual, don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions whatsoever.